Hello, good morning. How are you? Have a good day. Good morning, guys. I hope you guys are having a beautiful Friday. It's Thursday for me, so Friday Eve, but it's Friday for you guys, the best day of the work week. We all know the best days of the week are Saturday and Sunday, but the best day of the work week by far is Friday, so I hope you guys are enjoying your day. Let's talk real quick about the elephant in the room. The Archdiocese of LA had a $880 million settlement for over 1,200 victims of priest pedophiles. Horrible, horrible situation. The settlement was for $880 million. So hopefully that brings a little bit of, not closure necessarily, because I'm sure a lot of these people are still going to be traumatized for the rest of their lives. But at least hopefully it provides a little bit of relief. A pretty steep fine, $880 million, and more importantly, a lot of people lost their faith because of those evil, demented, perverted, pedophile priests. And we all know that it's not just a Los Angeles problem, it's a problem that's been throughout the church. And it's very unfortunate because when it comes to the Catholic faith, it's a beautiful religion. Many of us in America are Christian, not necessarily Catholic, but it's a beautiful faith. And people lose their faith when you allow priests like that. And then the scandal, of taking one priest in one part of the world and simply moving him to another, it just kind of shows you that our church is a church of sinners and saints. And for every saint that we have many more sinners. I hope that all the victims are able to take the monies won, and hopefully they're able to get on with their lives and move forward. Now, a lot of these victims were from, the 70s, 80s, 90s, not necessarily from today, but that means a lot of these victims probably aren't even alive anymore, and they probably had to go through their life reliving these traumatic situations that happened to them. And we all know that it's not something that's isolated to the Catholic Church. This happens at a lot of churches. I believe that if you're a parent, I'm just of the feeling that you really need to try to make it where your kids are never one-on-one with adults, period. I think we have to admit, especially nowadays, I just feel like there's a seed of evil in a lot of people out there. And if you can't trust people, don't. Right? Don't. Go with your gut. If your gut tells you, man, this guy smiles too much, if your gut tells you, wow, this guy has a weird twinkle in his eye, if your gut tells you, wow, this woman sounds demented, never allow your kids to be in one-on-one situations with these people. And if you are around these people, kids, and they give you a cold, prickly, or a nasty feeling, let your parents know. And if you have to, if your parents are ignorant of it, call the police, get some sort of report going, because we need to stop these people. On a better note, I wanted to tell you about something I find super duper interesting, but I need to preface it by saying I never trust our military, and I mean that in a good way. Our military's job is to perform tests, experimental flights, this, that, and the other. And more importantly, their job is to do this secretively and not talk about it. So whenever there are situations where the military doesn't talk about things and we start to assume things are alien or UFO or this, that, and the other, I always say the reason they're not talking about it is because it's another branch of the military. But let me tell you the story, and then you can make your decision. Last December, for 17 days in a row, Langley Air Force Base was accosted by some drones that apparently were the size of cars. As a matter of fact, according to the investigation, these drones were 20 feet in diameter, so very, very big drones, and they were swarming this Air Force base at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. Now, the creepy thing about this is during these 17 days, they didn't think at any time to shoot down these drones or anything. And the reason we have a little video of these drones is because of outsiders that were, with their camera taking pictures of these things and video of these things. So there's been a lot of speculation. Were these drones that were swarming the base, were they from China? Were they from Iran? Were they Russian? They weren't ours, and they don't believe that it was hobbyists. So the other thought they were talking about is, could this be alien technology? Why do they even go there? Well, because if you have something swarming your base for 17 days in a row, and you don't have the courage to shoot them down, people start to believe that maybe it's alien, right? If it's from China, Iran, or Russia, why aren't we shooting stuff down? But here's the crazy thing. If it is alien, or even if they think it might be alien, they don't shoot those things down, and there's only one reason I can think of for that: fear. So it sounds to me, based on some stories that I've heard, and maybe you guys have heard these stories too, it sounds to me like we have had some interactions with these alien objects, or unidentified objects, whatever you want to call them, aerial phenomenon. And it sounds to me, based on what I've heard, that there are some instances where these aliens have attacked pilots in the past, and it didn't end up very good for the pilots. Hey, good morning. It's kind of cold out here today. I'm going to stay in the sun. So here's the thing. If every time these things come up and no one's able to identify them, and our policy is don't mess with them, then holy moly, we don't have control of our airspace at all. If this would have been one day for 1.7 hours, you could understand them not having much to do with it. But for it to happen for 17 days in a row, hours at a time, 100-mile-per-hour drones that are just kind of checking out the base, and you don't think to shoot them down? That is crazy. Again, I don't think they're alien at all. I think it's McDonnell Douglas or Boeing or one of these other defense contractors. I think it's them flying their drones, and I think the Air Force Base knows in advance not to do anything with it. And I think the only reason it made the news is because some bystanders took pictures and videos of it. In other words, it's probably our stuff. I think all these aliens and stuff are more than likely property of the United States of America. So when you see these crazy alien footage that they have, I think that's us. And I think deep down, we are 200 or 300 years ahead of China and Russia when it comes to this stuff. The only problem is everything in the military is completely top secret. Do you think if you had a drone, even if it was the size of a mid-sized car, do you think if you flew a drone over an Air Force base for 17 days in a row, do you think they would have just let that happen? So it's not a hobbyist, because no hobbyist has a car-sized drone in their backyard, and they definitely don't have multiple of them, right? So it's either a foreign entity, let's call it Iran or China. Iran, I'm starting to say it the way they do on the news. Iran, right? So let's say it's either them, or let's speculate that it's actually the U.S. military itself. That would totally make the most sense. If we have stuff coming from other countries and the U.S. is not shooting it down, then the U.S., in my opinion, is doing a disservice to the people of this country. Apparently, they're allowed to fly balloons over us, and they're allowed to have drones go to our military bases. That just makes us look really passive and weak. So I don't understand that. And then let's go to the final speculation. Let's say it's not us, and it's not a foreign entity, and it's definitely not a hobbyist. Well, that only leaves aliens or interdimensional beings. But again, if you are the size of a car and you're traveling 100 miles per hour, while that might seem fast to us walking at 3 miles per hour here on Earth, in the air, that's not anything spectacular. You know, I mean, do they have to literally start dropping little bomblets for you to do something about it? If you are afraid to do something about it, does that mean that the aliens are here and that they are taking over and you're not going to do anything about it because if you shoot them, they're going to destroy the world? What do they know that they're not telling us? Well, number one, they're not going to tell us anything, no matter if they know or not. So there's the answer. But it still leads to fun speculation. So if you're listening to my voice, Mala, Sean, Lily, what do you guys think this is? Do you think it's a situation where it's just a hobbyist, right? A mad scientist, if you will, with his drones? Do you think it's China? Do you think it's Iran? You know, if it's China and Iran, guess what? They didn't just appear. They would have had to fly over more than likely Canada or more than likely the Atlantic. I don't think battery or gas-powered drones, I don't think they would be able to make it all the way across the Atlantic without recharging. I don't think they would be able to make it through Canada and the Western United States to make it to Virginia and the Langley Air Force Base. So I don't even see how it could possibly be them. Could it be Russia coming over the North Pole into Canada? Again, you have to get over Canadian airspace to make it. Were they coming up from Cuba and stuff, South America, to get there? Who knows? It just seems to me like something where the American people deserve a lot better than, yeah, they were just checking out the Air Force's base for 17 days in a row. On another note, just to give you a little update, apparently Jadir, I forget his last name now, Jadir Goodwin, I believe was his name from yesterday. The gentleman that with his two friends, they ran over 3 nurses in a Pennsylvania emergency room area. Well, apparently he turned himself in, which is really interesting, right? You know everybody knows it's you, it's just a matter of time before you caught, so you turn yourself in. Well, I guess that's the one thing that is crazy about human nature and the human brain. Why do we come to these obvious conclusions after the fact when it's too late? Why can't a person just say, you know what? I might as well not leave the scene of the crime. They've got me on video camera. They've got pictures of my face. They're going to be able to catch me. Maybe I should stay here and not run over people, right? But again, the human brain doesn't think about that till it's too late. What if you had pre-active thoughts? What if you could tell people, hey, let's make a plan so if you ever do get pulled over by the police, hey, let's make a plan so that if you ever do have to drop off a friend at a hospital because of a gunshot wound, maybe there needs to be laws that, hey, you know, you're not necessarily going to be prosecuted for doing the right thing, but we already know you're going to be prosecuted for doing the wrong thing. So this guy's going to go to jail. He's probably going to get credit from the judge and from the parole board and the whole 9 yards for turning himself in. I don't consider that decent credit when you already know someone's going to turn you in if you don't turn in yourself. So I notice a lot of times people get treated better if they turn themselves in. I say throw the book at them. You know, when you're trying to hurt public servants, because that's how I look at people that work for the hospital. I know they technically don't work for the government, they work for the hospital, but they're obviously still serving the public. And when you're serving the public on the health side, you know, was the hospital able to serve patients after those 3 nurses were taken out? You know, did they have to call in emergency staff to back them up? I'm guessing they did. You know, but did it end up making service difficult? Did anybody end up losing their life in the emergency room because they weren't able to be seen properly? A lot of times you find out there's domino effects to this stuff. So again, how do you guys feel? Do you guys feel if you turn yourself in, you should get leniency? You know, if leniency means you get a 3-year sentence and you're out of jail in 3 or 4 months, I don't think that's very fair to the nurses. I don't think that's very fair to the people. But at the same time, I mean, my goodness, I bet criminals get those sweet deals all the time. You know, it's funny, every couple of months, I contemplate the idea of stopping Amazon Prime. And I've stopped Amazon Prime subscriptions that I have before. Every time you stop it, they're like, hey, what if we give it to you for half price? So if you want half price Amazon Prime, just stop your account and they'll send you an email. There are ways to kind of cheat the system, so to speak, but I never took advantage of those. I stopped my plan and then I start it back up, you know, because maybe I need to purchase something and I don't really want to pay the shipping on it, yada, yada. But one of the things that's nice about Amazon Prime is that they show Thursday night football. I always would get jealous whenever there's a football game that I can't watch because I don't have that channel, right? But with Amazon Prime, you can watch Thursday night football. So I'm not sure who's playing tonight, but it doesn't really matter. I enjoy NFL football so much. I'll watch the two worst teams in the league with an asterisk. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes there's some boring football teams out there, but predominantly speaking, I can handle a boring game. It's better than nothing. I always feel better when it's sports season. You know, this is that weird time of year where there's a little baseball, a little basketball, and a little football all at the same time. And you can enjoy all of it. I have a lot of Dodger fans that work with me. And it's funny, whenever you have Patriot fans in football, Laker and Celtic fans in basketball, Dodgers and Yankee fans in baseball, as an Arizonan, I always look at that and I say, must be nice. Is it even challenging being a fan for those teams that just kick butt all the time? The real challenge is being a Cleveland Browns fan, right? The real challenge is being a Jacksonville Jaguar fan. You know, if your team sucks perpetually every year and you're still a fan, that's something that impresses me. I've met a lot of Detroit Lions fans through the year. And it's funny because for a team that very seldom has a winning tradition, minus the last year or two, because obviously they've been good the last year or two. But before that, they were constantly average or below average. Yet every Detroit Lions fan I ever met was like, I think this is our year. Oh my God, Matt Stafford's going to take us to the promised land this year. And they absolutely loved their Lions. They loved Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford leaves town, ends up winning a championship, right? And it's like, God, the poor people of Detroit are just cheated every year, every time. And then they have their defensive lineman, one of their best players, I think his name is Chad Hutchinson. He ended up breaking his leg on Monday Night Football, right? Or Sunday night, one of the two nights. He was their best defensive player. So it's kind of like I said the other day, Detroit is one of those cities. It's kind of cursed. So here's my question to you. Sometimes I feel cursed, right? I'm one of these guys that things look like they're lined up to go perfectly, whether it be a job, whether it be a YouTube channel, whether it be relationships with my kids. I feel like things are lined up to go perfectly, yet something happens that throws it into a muck. Some way, somehow, things never end up going perfect. Could our teams, could our cities, could certain parts of the world be perpetually cursed? If you knew there was a curse on you, what would you do? Would you try to go to a witch doctor to get that curse removed? Would you try to call in a priest to remove the evil hex or curse? Would you try to pray about it and fast? Or would there come a point where you just have to accept it and say, you know what, curse or not, it's interesting. You know, every time something's about to go my way or every time something's about to go our team's way, something happens, you know? If it's meant to be, you might as well enjoy the entertainment value of it, you know? It's just interesting. We find ourselves in a world where it seems like a lot of people have a lot of really good things going for them. And then we have another situation where it seems like certain people, like stuff never goes their way. What type of person are you? We know a lot of you are struggling with your weight. Are you the type of person that no matter what you do, you're cursed when it comes to your weight? Who's this dog? Look at that dog. I don't think that's Pretty Girl, but look, his ears are perked like he's ready to attack me. Hi, pretty dog. How are you? Hi! How are you? Go home! Go home! Oh my goodness, he's ready to bite me, isn't he? How are you? Oh, is that Pretty Girl? Oh, is that Pretty Girl? That's not Pretty Girl, is it? How are you? Okay, I'm gonna go over here on this side of the street. I'm gonna go on this side of the street. Oh, you're so cute. Be a good girl. Be a good girl. You're so cute. All right, you guys can watch if she attacks me. Well, I want to be in the shade. This dog is, I don't think this dog is Pretty Girl. It's hard for me to tell because this dog's got some nips on her. Hi, Pretty Girl. Be a good girl. Go home. Go home. Go home. You know, whenever you walk up to dogs, that's scary, right? What am I going to do if the dog starts biting me, you know? Holy moly. Can I punch a dog in the face successfully? Have you ever seen how fast dogs can catch a ball? I'm sure they could catch your fist without any problems. Look at, here's a guy working outside of his house, got his laptop outside. You don't see that too often. I always, certain neighborhoods, people hang out in their backyards, and certain neighborhoods, people hang out in their front yards. This is usually a backyard type neighborhood, right? Where you hang out in your own backyard. But some of the neighbors like to hang out in the front yard. I've never seen a guy take out a desk into his front yard and pull out his laptop and start to work. But you want to know something? When you work from home, that's one of those things you can do, I suppose. And it is beautiful today. Very nice weather. Very, very nice weather. Checking to make sure that dog's not behind me anymore. I love UFOs. I love UAPs. I'm one of these guys that if they do come down and take over the world, I don't want it to be in 300 years when I'm long gone. I want it to be right now. They come down and make us make humans like, you know, subservient to them. Do it now. I want to experience that now before I leave the earth. Man, I think that would be perfect intergalactic justice. If they just come down here and say, oh my God, you people don't know how to act. We're gonna take over the world. Holy moly, that would be scary. I'm saying that I want that to happen, but you know, if it did happen, I'd be like, oh my God, how is this happening? There is something really scary about the idea that if the US did think those were alien drones, there is something really scary about the idea that we're literally petrified, or terrified, I should say, of doing anything about it. That's kind of like how bad guys have a little bit of a power over the good people of the world, whether they be alien or from China or just the bad guy down the street, right? Bad guys are really hoping that they intimidate you so bad that you don't want to go to the authorities, that you don't want to do anything about it, that you just want to, you know, turn away and run. It's kind of unfortunate. Wouldn't it be crazy if we lived in a world where everybody that was weaker just joined together and just beat the crap out of all the bullies of the world? Wouldn't that be something? I'm telling you, I feel like there's so many ways where we could change things in this world. But for whatever reason, people don't come together and change things for the good. But it seems like whenever there's something bad, I saw, did you guys see the trains in Chicago? There was a situation, I think it was either Chicago or Texas, because the video I saw said it was Austin News, but I think it was in Chicago. They showed a train that was stuck on the tracks, and they showed people opening up one of the train cars and just taking out TVs and stuff and walking with it down the street. And the crazy thing was, they showed a handful of cops and cop cars there, and the people were still walking off with TVs. And it's like, if you're gonna send cops there, don't send them there just to take a bunch of pictures of the license plates so you can get them later, which is great, get them later, but get them right then and there. They're right there. They're literally stealing stuff right in front of the cops, and the cops didn't do anything about it. In case you didn't hear that, Google or YouTube train stuck in Chicago, people stealing out of the cars, and something should pop up. But every day we have this mischief and this criminality, and nothing ever happens about it. It's a real shame. But with that being said, it's not a shame that it's Friday. I hope you have a great day of work. And when you come home, since the weather's so nice, try a late evening or early evening walk, I should say. And we'll talk about it tomorrow.